Here I've already scored my bottle, how wide I'd like my rings to be. The bottom of the bottle always takes the longest to separate due to it absorbing a lot of that heat, drawing it away from your score line. Right there you hear the very first crack of the glass. That's the glass actually separating. Technically I'm not cutting the glass, but using that very tip of my flame from the torch to expand my score line, causing it to separate. Remember from grade school that the heat expands, the cold contracts. Some people like to use the flame and ice technique into shocking or stressing the glass into breaking. It's very unpredictable and can cause you to shatter your glass instead of giving a clean break. I don't use that technique. This is what I found to work the best. Once that bottom is removed, the rings will then take between 1 and 2 minutes on average. Unless the glass is hand blown, that causes defects, such as varied thickness in the bottle walls or divots, causing the bottle to shatter when the heat touches it. With those, I'll work slower, bring the bottle further away from the flame, and hopefully salvage most of the bottle. I work with both beer and wine bottles, this being a beer bottle. Wine bottles are thicker glass, they cut more cleanly and a little bit easier. My favorite bottles for the sound that they create are the small Sky vodka bottles. They're just smaller than a beer bottle. They give a pure sound. They're thick, if not thicker than a wine bottle. I do tend to use every bit of the bottle from the very base all the way up through the neck. Sometimes I'll even cut the neck into its own rings, causing smaller rings to be hung from my wind chimes, giving it a little bit different sound. Each design may not take the entire bottle per wind chime. I may use some rings from this bottle and some rings from that bottle, maybe a different top on it, but every section of the bottle does get used. I will add chandelier crystals to give the sun that little bit of catching and drawing the eye to it. A lot of times I will use other pieces of salvaged items that I find. Sometimes bracelet pieces, sometimes pendants through the center. I get all of my bottles from either donations from family, friends, local businesses, or I'll find them at flea markets, yard sales, those kind of places. I don't actually drink, so I don't tend to have a lot of liquor or glass bottles from myself. The next glass adventure that I will be taking will be actually cutting glass. I'll be taking square, hexagon, and triangle bottles and using a Dremel with a diamond bit disc. That will actually be cutting the glass. Another way to do that would be a wet saw. You don't want to put flame on any flat-sided glass bottle due to all the corners being a thicker section of glass. That will really shatter up the sides where the glass is thicker, or completely shatter the walls itself, leaving only the edges or the corners. So you have to tend to cut those instead of flame separation. I've done a few already. I have a few more that I really want to try out. Different designs of the bottles. Some have kind of a ribbed design, and I'm going to go up each ribbing. A lot of times, just to give the glass a little bit different look, I will also etch the top portion of my wind chimes. Sometimes I get special requests on that. Sometimes they're hand painted, or I'll take clear glass bottles and make them into mirrored rings just to give it a little bit more glint for the sun. All depends on what design I'm working on or if somebody has asked for something specific. I think this bottle in total took me roughly 12 to 13 minutes. The base, or the bottom, did end up taking me just about 3 minutes to separate, and that's because I was working a little bit slower. I kept my heat down lower. I didn't know if there was a defect in this glass or not. It looked like there was a possibility. Everything did come out very cleanly. Getting those nice clean cuts like that will allow you to take a lot less time on sanding your edges down, because when you get a nice clean cut, it'll only need to be sanded just enough to take that very sharp edge off. And in my next video, I'll be drilling holes and possibly piecing it all together.